Okay, so we'll start, Andy. So we yesterday we discussed about general troubleshooting and like what are the common issues usually you'll encounter in real-time environment, and then what are the actions we need to take when we have the kind of problems. So that we discussed in yesterday class, and today class, so we are going to discuss about real-time scenarios and issues. So this document mainly using for interview purpose. Okay. So in this topic in today class, we are going to discuss about real-time scenarios and issues. So why? So this topic mainly used for interview purpose, because when we attend the interview, so they might ask that so few questions related to the real-time scenarios. So have you encountered any kind of problem on installations while doing the installation? Have you encountered any kind of problem in the patch installations or maybe replication or mirroring or always on? Right. So these are the questions you might get it, like one or two questions you will get in. So mostly they're looking for theoretical things like how it is working, what is the purpose, what are the prerequisites, configuration. And apart from regular interview questions, they will also ask few questions related to the real-time scenarios. So can you explain one issue which you encountered during the installation in your experience, or maybe explain about issue you encounter in your career on the patching, or maybe always on, or maybe replication. Okay, so that's the reason. So I made document with a few scenarios which I encountered in my experience. Okay, very useful for interview. So almost all the interviews will get one question related to real-time scenarios. Okay. Let me open the document. So the first scenario is that installation. So there are many reasons for failing the installation. We already discussed about what are the common reasons for failing the installation, where we need to verify, and how to find the errors, and what are the common reasons. So these are all the things we discussed in installation topic. Okay. So even I encounter many issues during my experience. In my experience, so the problem is that we were trying to install SQL Server 2014 in our environment, but that installation was failed with the error message. The identifiers of the manifest identical, but their contents are different. So the installation was failed with these error messages. We already know, we know that when the installation was failed, so we have to look into the installation error logs. Those files are located in C program files, Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, and based on the server version, we have to look into 110, 130, or maybe 140, and then set a bootstrap log. So there we can see the bunch of error log files. Then we need to verify that. Okay, so we received this error message, and then after doing some research with this error message in internet, we found the solution that we need to install the Visual C++ 2005 runtime library. So this is the one of the prerequisites for SQL Server 2012, 14, 16, 17 versions. If any reason this DLL file, this file is missing in the existing installation binaries, or maybe corrupted, so we cannot install the SQL Server, and the installation was failed with installation will fail with this error message. Right. So what we need to do that we need to separately download Visual C++ 2005 runtime libraries called Sorry, Andy. So I was internet is disconnected. Okay, so we are discussing about okay. So we are discussing about real-time scenarios and issues. So the first is issue on installation. So we were trying to install SQL Server 2014 on our machine, one of our machine, but the installation was failed with the error message. The identifiers of the manifest identical, but their contents are different. So this is the error message we received, and with this error message, the installation was failed. So after done some research on internet, so we found that the reason is that if Visual C++ 2005 runtime library file is corrupted or missing in the main setup file, we'll get this kind of error message. Installation cannot be succeeded. So what we need to do that? So we have to download the separately. We need to download Visual C++ 2005 runtime library. So this file we can download from the Microsoft site, and then we need to install. After successful installation of Visual C++ 2005 runtime library, we can install the SQL Server 2014. So this kind of issue might be happen in 2012, 14 or 16 versions. So because Visual C++ 2005 runtime libraries mandatory for SQL Server installation. Okay. So if you get this question, so maybe you might get the question into the point of view that tell me one issue you recently encountered on SQL Server installation. When you get this question, so we can highlight it about this particular problem. We were trying to install 14, and then that was failed because of identifiers of the manifest identical, but their contents are different, the kind of error message we received. And we verified the SQL Server installation error logs, and then after spending some time on Microsoft site, MSDN forums, we found the one of the solution, that is Visual C++ runtime library we need to download and install. So we did the same, and then after that we successfully installed the SQL Server 2014. So that way we can highlight it in interview point of view. Okay. So because so they can identify whether you have that the real experience or not by asking these questions. Okay, so that was about installation, and then coming to the upgrade. Okay, so we already did the upgrade from we already did the upgrade in our migration classes from one version to higher version. So that is called, like we discussed about two migration, like one is in place and then second one is side by side. So this issue is related to in place upgradation. We were trying to upgrade SQL Server 2008 to 2012. It's a direct upgrade from within the same machine. We are upgrading from 2008 to 2012. So when we were doing that, again that upgrade was failed. So if you remember in the final step of upgradations, so like before starting the upgradation process, we have a rule checking. So rule checking wizard, if any rule is failed, so we cannot go to the next step. So during the rule verification process, we got the error message that security group SID, security identified a rule failure. Okay, when any rule, like we have bunch of rules, it will verify before starting the upgradation process. So right, so one of the rule is that security identified rule. Okay, so the rule was failed. So so we have to identify that what is causing why it is failed. So for analyzing that, so we need to verify the uh, again. So when you are upgrading or maybe installing, that log files will be created in the default location, C program files, Microsoft SQL Server, and setup bootstrap location. So when verifying the error logs, in the error log we found that so there is a mismatch in the SID. So we already know SQL Server services using the service account. That service account, I mean, like we discussed about right in Windows SQL Server. Whenever you create any account in SQL Server, every account uniquely identified by the SID, security identifier. The same way it is applicable for the operating system. We have operating system accounts or domain accounts we can call it, and we have SQL account. So both accounts has its own SIDs. So here Windows accounts we are using for SQL services to run the SQL services, and we can call it as a SQL Server Service account, which account we are using to run the SQL Server services. So that account also has unique SID, but unfortunately the SID information is mismatched. Like we discussed about registry, like when it comes to the installation, that time we discussed about the registry. Registry contains the all this information. It contains the all the information of the operating system, like whatever applications you install on the operating system, whatever accounts we created, everything will be in the registry. So that registry contains the all this information. So when we are correct for the mainly two problems when we were in patching. One is that MSI file missing, MSP file missing. MSM means Microsoft installer files. MSP means Microsoft patching files. When these files are missing, we cannot install, we cannot complete the patch installation. data subscriber is in one server and then publisher is in one server. So due to the subscriber database data drive full, so the subscriber was broken. I mean, the replication was broken, and we cleared the space in the subscriber server. And then after that, we wait some time to replicate the data, but unfortunately, the data slicing subscriptions. Okay, but when we were trying to reinslice the subscriber, it's not completing and it is failing. Cannot reinslice the subscriber. Okay, so the one of the option is that when replication, like after verifying everything and everything is fine, if replication is not working, we can reinslice the replication. But we were trying to do the reinslice, but it was not happening. So for reinslicing, we can go to the publications. So right click, and here we can see that reinslice and make reinslice. So this is the way we can do the reinstallation. So a reinstall in the sense it's a kind of restarting all the agents. Okay. So but we were trying to do that, but it was not happening. So the problem, because when reinitializing not happening, so so if you verify the replication errors, then we can see that error message is not immediate sync publication is enabled. So if you remember, we discussed about two things: immediate sync and allow anonymous. These are the two options we are using to run the snapshot only for with the new articles data, not for all the existing article. So if immediate sync is in disabled, so we have to, I mean, we cannot reinslice the subscriber. So what we need to do that we have to enable by changing the value to 1. 0 indicates sync publication. After changing the value, we have to it will allow us to reinslice the subscriber. Okay. So this is the common, like we can highlight and say like the replication was broken because of the subscriber database data file full. We clear the, we added more space to the drive where the subscriber database data files are located. Then after that, the replication did not start. We we took the permission from took the downtime for reinitializing, and when we trying to reinslice, the reinitialization process did not succeed. So and then after verifying verify the uh, replication error logs, we find that immediate sync option is disabled. So we enabled by changing the value to 1. Then after that, we were successfully reinstalled the subscriber. So that is the way we can tell in interview point of view. Okay. So that's about the one problem in replication. And move to the second one. So the second problem, again, it is related to replication. In transaction replication setup, distribution agent failed with the error message, the row not found at the subscriber when applying the replicated commands. Okay. So that means we got an error message that a row not found at the subscriber when applying the replicated command. So we already know the replication, transaction replication working architecture. That means whatever changes happen at publication, those changes will be tracked by the logger agent and it will go to the distributor database, and then distributor agent will send these modified data, new data to the subscriber. Okay. So here, while doing that, internally those agents will run continuously to send the data to the subscriber. But here, the data, we got the error message that the row not found at the subscriber when applying the replicated command. So when you see this kind of error message, the problem, the cause for that problem, or cause for this problem is that whatever records you are updating or deleting a publisher, those records are not existed the subscriber. For example, we are updating. So currently, publication in the publisher DB, we have a record like ABC equal to 101. We are changing the ABC value equal to 102. That means the currently publisher we have a ABC equal to 101. We are changing the value from 101 to 102. So, but this ABC record not exist at subscriber. For any reason, somebody deleted at subscriber, we cannot do that because whatever update happen at publisher, the same update will try to happen at subscriber. If that record is not found, then we will get this kind of error message. The row not found at the subscriber. This happened because of the delete operation or update operation. Right? Not by the insert operation. Insert means it's a new record insert. But when you're updating or deleting the data, if they're not the same record not exist at subscriber, we'll get this kind of error message. Okay, so for resolving this problem, we have a different options, but the one option is that skip the error message. Like in the agent, we can enable this skip the error message, but this is not at all recommended because if we enable this option, whenever any errors happening in replication, it will skip that error and then remaining data it will send. It is a not recommended option to use in real-time environment. The second unrecommended one is that we have to verify the replication monitor. We already know that how to verify the errors in replication monitor. In the replication monitor, we can see that which account is creating the problem. Right? So that account we have to identify in the replication error logs, replication monitor errors, and if we identify that account record, that record we need to update it with subscriber manually. Then after that, then once added the recorded subscriber, automatically it start processing the replicating the data. Right? This is the solution for if you identify row not found at the subscriber. And the next one is that this is because of the duplicate data and with the insert statement. So we already discussed about this problem during our replication classes. So the issue is that in transaction replication, setup distribution agent failed with error message cannot insert duplicate key row in object with the unique index. The transaction has been terminated. So that's mean so when it is because of the duplicate data with insert statement, we'll get this error message. Like what happened, like for example, we know that like a transaction duplication, it's required the table requires the primary key, and primary key doesn't allow the duplicate data, doesn't allow the null values. Right? We already know that. So for example, we're inserting one at one record from publisher. Okay, the same record exists as subscriber. Unfortunately, somebody inserted one at one recorded subscriber before inserting in publisher. So when this happen, and if you are inserting the new recorded publisher like one at one, the record will not be accepted by the subscriber because the same record exists as subscriber. It doesn't accept the duplicate data. Right? So when this kind of situations happen, they will get this kind of error message. Object X with unique index PK, the transaction has been terminated. When it comes to when we have this kind of problem, so what we can do then, we can go to the replication monitor and verify the replication monitor error log. In the error logs, we can see the clearly which record is creating the problem. Primary key values, so on so table, so on so ID as problem. Okay, so we did the this demo in our replication classes. Right? So once identify the record, so the one solution is that we have to go to the subscriber and we need to remove that record manually. Once you remove the record, automatically the data processing will happen from publisher. Pending data will automatically move to the subscriber. So the second solution is that skipping the error. So, but again, it is not at all recommended. We can use this option, but when you enable this option, so it will skipping the errors and sending the remaining data. Right. So, and the next problem in transaction replication again, the next issue is related to transaction replication. So the problem is that in transaction replication, logger agent is failing with error message. The process could not execute as per ripple and as per ripple counters on publisher. Right? Transaction replication logger agent is failing. So logger agent will run at the will capture the data from the publisher and then it will go to the distributor. That's the role of the logger agent. When running the log read agent internally, two stored processes will run. Those are SPN score ripple done, SPN score ripple counter. Internally, log read agent when running the log read agent, internally these two stored processes will run. Right? So run. So here, like that's the one of the important point. But here the problem is that the process could not execute as per ripple done, as per ripple counters unpublished. So the reason for this problem is that if multiple as per ripple done, as per ripple counters are executing on the same database, will encounter this kind of error message. Okay? So we have only one log read agent for log read agent for the uh, publisher. So when it is running, it will run the SQL and SQL counter store position. But unfortunately, if uh, two uh, these store positions, maybe double store positions, are running on the same database, we'll see this kind of error message. So what we need to do that for resolving this problem is, so we have to log into the server. We need to verify whether there are any multiple store procedures related to log reason running or not. If we see multiple store procedures related to log reason, then we have to manually kill them. So for verifying the agent, so processes, we can use the SPN score who2, we can use it, and we can also use the activity monitor. Here we can see the database name. Okay, here we can see that log reader agent is only one running. Okay, if multiple agents are running on this database for any reason, then we have to find the session ID for that particular agent, and we have to kill SPID ID. Sometimes maybe some reasons manually these commands run by the users. Okay, if there somebody is executing manually these SP ripple counters or SP ripple done commands, and if they're not close that session, we'll encounter this kind of problem. So we have to log into the server, and we need to verify is there any multiple agents running on the same database. If we find anything, then we have to manually kill that store procedures or sessions, and then we have to start the log read agent services. Right. So that's for the process could not execute as per ripple and as per ripple counters and publisher. If you see this error, this is the solution. Okay. So when it comes to the general issues, so the general issue is that like we know that temdb is a system database. It contains all the temporary data. So what happened? So after added some, so one of the options for handling the temdb full is that we can create multiple temdb files. Okay, so we had a temporary pull alert, and then we took the decision to add one more data file to the temdb. So we added the temdb new data file to the temdb, but after adding the temdb new data file to the temdb, the server was not responding. The server was down, and server did not respond. So the reason for this problem is that, so we added the data file. For example, currently the MDB data files are resides on the D drive, and D drive almost completely filled. So we created the new data file in E drive. So, but unfortunately, SQL Server service account does not have. I mean, the service account did not have permissions on the uh, D drive. Currently, MDB files exist in E drive, and D drive full, and then we decided to add new data file in the D drive. We added a new data file for 10 GB in D drive, but after that the services did not respond. So the reason is that SQL Server service account did not have permissions on the D drive. So due to that, it's not identifying those files, and SQL Server did not respond. So when we have this kind of problem, so what we can do that we have either there is a two solutions. One is that we need to grant permission to the MDB files which we newly created in the D drive. So in our example, the next solution is that we need to start the SQL server with minus a parameter, right? So in our data recovery classes, especially when we discussed about master database rebuild, that time we used the minus m parameter. Minus m parameter means it will allow us to run the SQL Server in single user mode. Here we have a minus f parameter we need to use it. So when using the minus f parameter, so what will happen? SQL Server will start with the minimal mode and a single user mode. And using the minus of parameter, when you're starting the SQL Server, so TimDB files, TimDB files will, SQL Server will restart with the default files. Like default files are two, like data file, log file. It want to use the create manually created file. So SQL Server will start with the default TimDB files. So that's mean it doesn't depend on the new data files which we created manually, right? So once you create the once you started the SQL Server, then we can remove those files. You can all, or maybe you can manually update it with whatever location we have. I mean, location which you have permissions, we can update that location information, and we can restart the SQL Server. So that is the one solution using the minus a parameter. And the next one is that we need to manually grant access to the D drive, SQL Server Service account. We need to grant permission to the SQL Server Service account on D drive. Either of the solutions we can use to resolve this kind of problem. So that is the reason before adding new files to any new drive, we have to ensure that whether we have proper permissions or not, we need to verify. We have a proper permission, then only better we can add. Okay, so clustering. So next clustering. So we haven't discussed about clustering. So after completing that all other topics, then we'll discuss. That time we'll discuss about the clustering issues. So then move to the always on. So these are it's very similar to mirroring. So here the problem is that when we are trying to add a new database, like uh, like we already seen how to add a new database to the existing availability group. When we are trying to add a new database, the database adding file with error message 35250 file to join database DB name to the availability group as a name on availability replica. Okay, so there are many reasons for having this kind of problem, because either account which are using to add a database, that account does not have proper permissions, or maybe firewall blocking. We know that like endpoint use the port number 50222324. So these are the port numbers using for mirroring and always in. If firewall is blocking these port numbers again, so it won't allow us to add the database. So the main permissions, and the second one is that firewall blocking. Okay, and apart from that, maybe if secondary replica is down or maybe not responding, that will also create a problem. So when we have this kind of problem, better we have to look for all these areas. Like when endpoint is corrupted, or maybe somebody endpoint deleted, or maybe port blocking, or maybe endpoint permissions. That means that account doesn't have proper permission to add a database. So these are all the reasons for failing this problem. Okay. So we trying to like we thought that like we are using the SA account as a segment privileges to add a database to the availability group, but we use it as admin privileges. But again, there is no that's not a problem for a problem to add a new database to the existing availability group. But when it comes to the SQL Server Service account, like SQL Server Service account also have permissions in both SQL servers, like primary replica and secondary replica. So in our case, unfortunately, that SQL Server service account did not add in the secondary server and did not have endpoint connect permissions. Okay? So this is the problem for creating the problem. Like we have sysadmin privilege to add an account. Sysadmin is enough for adding the database. But here the problem is different. The problem is because of the service account. Service account does not have connect permissions on the endpoints, and the service account did not add into the secondary replica. So by Performing these two steps, we were able to add a database into existing availability group, right? So that means the service account should be connect permissions, connect endpoint permissions, and should be added in both availability group, primary and as well as secondary. If it not happen, then we'll encounter this kind of error message. So the next one is that we discussed about disaster recovery testing, how to do that, what are the steps that we need to do during the disaster recovery testing. So we have a SAP application, and we need to, while doing that SAP application disaster recovery testing. So what happened after failover to the other node? So because in the disaster recovery process, so after taking the backup from primary replica, we need to failover to the secondary replica. So currently SAP application is running fine with the primary node. They can do all kind of business operations, all the operations, and that should be fine. So after failover to the secondary replica, different location, application did not able to connect to the secondary replica. So they couldn't do any kind of business operation. So again, so what we did that again we failed back to the previous one. When failed back to the old one, so from using the old database, that's mean the primary one, it was able to do all kind of operations. But after failure to the secondary replica, it's not happening, right? So again, again for that there are many reasons because of maybe they did not properly updated the listener names or in the secondary replica, because we discussed about the listeners when they are using the listener name, no need to change the connection string because listener is always pointing to the primary replica. They're not using the listener name, or maybe they're using the physical server name, or maybe they're not configured connection string properly. So these are the few reasons for having this kind of problem. So we requested to SAP team to verify the connection strings, and they said that everything is fine. I think we were able to connect with primary replica. We are not able to connect with secondary replica. There might be some problem at the secondary replica. So they said that. So they confirmed that there is nothing at their end. So what we did that we start verifying the all kind of permissions and then endpoints, firewall blocking, everything. We do not see any kind of issue with these areas like firewall or permissions, endpoints. So everything is fine. Everything is fine. So after that, we executed the orphan users because SAP account. So SAP application using the SAP account, SAP user. So so after failover to the secondary replica, the SID user, I mean SAP account, SID user SID and the login SID is different. So when it is different, then after failover, the connection will not be established. Right? We discussed about the SIDs and then orphan users. So when it is in the primary replica, the account, SAP account user SID and login SID is same, and it is connection is establishing, and they can do all kind of operations. When failure to the other node, so the name is same, like username is same at a secondary replica, but SID is different. That means that SAP application account to user SID and the login SID is different on the secondary replica. So how we can verify that command means we can use the sp underscore change underscore sorry sp underscore update underscore sorry which command? There is a one command. Yeah, sp underscore change underscore login underscore report. The command we can use it. So this command we can use to identifying the missing SIDs or maybe missing or maybe orphan users. Okay, so when executing this command, we found the that account. We in the result we seen the that account, the SAP account in the secondary replica. After that, we remove the login and we generated the script from the primary replica, and we created the login with the same SID of the user SID. Right? So that is the way we fixed the problem, the connectivity problem on the SAP application. Right. So these are the few common issues which I encountered in my experience, and so mainly for these, I made this document mainly for clearing the interview. Because when you say that we have 4 years or 5 years or 6 years experience, we must tell at least one of the issues. Like, and then they're asking whether what kind of troubleshooting experience you have in your experience, the kind of for identification, the kind of thing they'll ask these type of questions. Tell me one of the issue you encounter on the installation, patching, or replication, right? So these are the questions we might encounter in interview point of view. So sometimes they specifically asking for a specific topic, or sometimes they'll openly ask that, tell me one or two issues which you encounter in your experience. And then we can select the any of the issue which we feel easy to explain. We can, and then that issue we need to explain in interview point of view. Right, so that's for the real-time issues and solutions. I hope you understand clearly. If you're clear about, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. And if you don't have anything, then we'll move to the next topic. The next topic is that DBCC DMV. Again, so this is also useful for interview point of view, because we might experience questions that tell me few DBCC commands or maybe few DMVs commands. Okay. So in this topic, we learn about what is DBCC, what are DMVs, and what are the DBCC commands and DMVs. Okay. So we already familiar with a few DBCC and the DMV commands during our previous scenarios, previous classes. Okay, so DBCC means database console commands. So using these commands, we can find the information. So mainly for getting the information about operations or tasks or doing some kind of maintenance operations, we are using the DBCC commands. So these DBCC commands available in all the versions and all the editions. Okay. So again, these DBCC commands, they classified into 4 ways. One is maintenance related DBCC commands, miscellaneous, informational, and validation. Okay. So when it comes to, so there are plenty of DBCC commands available, more than 2000 or 1000 plus DBCC commands we have, but mainly we are using maybe 8 to 10 commands we are using on a regular basis. So and get this question in interview point of view, tell me a few DBCC commands, then the important DBCC commands you need to tell in interview point of view. Okay. So validation DBCC commands. We are very much familiar with this command DBCC check DB. Right? We use this command in backup and recovery classes and migration classes. So using this command, we can verify the corrupted pages information. Right? DBCC check DB to verifying the page corruptions information we can find. Check check ident. This command also we can use it for the validating whether your data is properly in the database or not. Okay, so running this command, so just go to the server on which database you want to find the corrupted pages information. Just go to the database. For example, here I want to use the HRUK database. Take a new query and just simply DBCC check DB and execute. Okay. If any pages, any corrupted data in the database, we can see that information in the result window. Okay, so that's the one of the command, and the second one is that informational related. We are familiar with this command DBCC input buffer. So DBCC input buffer command we are using to find the session ID information, what exactly that particular session is doing. DBCC input buffer, and in the parentheses we need to specify the session ID. Like here we have a session ID 87. Let me run the 87. Sorry. Here we can see that 78. 87 or 78 we can use it. I'm using 87. We can see that, like here we can see the 87 session. It is executing the DBC check DB. Okay. When you know the SWID ID, session process ID, and we can use the input buffer to identify what exactly the particular session is doing. DBCC check DB, it is running the command information. Okay. So specifically, if you want to find the session related, like what kind of query the session is executing, if you want to find that information, we can use the DBCC input buffer. So DBCC open tran. Yesterday we discussed this command. So this command we can use it for identifying the open transaction. So when you're trying to do the sync operations, then better we can, before doing that sync operation, better we can run the DBCC open tran. Okay. And DBCC SQL per block space. So this command also we used in yesterday to getting the log files size information. SQL per block space. And executing this command, we can see the all the databases log files information. Here you can see two column, log size in MBs, log space used in percentage. What is the current size in MBs? What is the log space percent in percent? We can see that. Okay. And the next DBCC command is check DB. Let me see. Still it is executing. Let's wait some more time. Okay, so like when executing the DBC check DB command, so we can see the result. So let's wait some more time to see the result. Okay, so we use it like this command we used in data recovery classes to identify the page corruption information, and again we use this command in suspect mode steps and migration. Okay, if we can see that result window here, it is like if any error messages, any page is corrupted. If you look into the error, if you look into the information here, we can see the page corrupted information. Okay. So the next DBCC command is that DBCC string database and DBCC string file. Right. So string database, if you want to string the entire database, we can use the DBC string database. So it's not at all recommended to string the entire database apart from TempDB. So we can string the entire TempDB, but when it comes to the user defined databases, it is not at all recommended for shrinking the entire database, because entire database means it contains the all the data files and log files. So as I said that yesterday, we should not go for shrinking the data file. If you shrink the data file, it is creating a lot of fragmentation in the database. We already know the impacts of the fragmentation. Okay. But if you want to do that, we can use DBC string database and just specify the database name. Okay. The next one DBCC command is the DBCC string file. So string file, and then here we have to specify the file name, right? So again, so we can do it at any time, LDF file, log file, but we cannot do for a data file. Okay, some cases, some special cases we can do that, but when doing the data file syncing, so after completing the data file syncing, immediately we need to rebuild the indexes. Okay, so DBC string database means in the parentheses we have to specify the database name, and comes to the DBC string file, in the parentheses we need to specify the file name. Okay, so the next commands are dbcc pre-pro caching. Again, these are not recommended to run these commands. So these commands will remove the all the cache information, plan cache, procedure cache, pool cache, all this kind of information it will remove, but it should not be recommended to execute. If you remove the cache information, again it will try to write the new plans, and that information will be stored into the buffer pool, right? So like when, so some cases we will use this, especially when we have a problem with the TimDB pool. So if you want to clear some free space in the TimDB, we can run the dbcc pre-pro cache commands on the TimDB to remove some kind of free space in the TimDB. Right, so dbc string file, and the next commands are dbcc trace off and trace on. Like we discussed about trace flags, like in today class we discussed about 902, and other trace flags are 1222, 1204, right? So we discussed about these trace flags, right? So generally we can enable trace flags in two ways. One is that globally, the second one is that session wise. If you want to enable trace flags globally, then we have to use the configuration manager. Go to the configuration manager, and then go to the service properties. There in the startup parameters tab, we need to enable it. The second is session wise. Session wise means in the particular session we can enable DBCC trace off and trace on. Right? But when you're using these DBCC commands, only session wise. When restarting SQL Server, that trace flag will remove from the SQL Server. This way we can enable if you want to disable trace off and trace on. So these are the common DBCC commands we are using on regular basis in real-time environment. Okay. So this question is also very important in real. Tell me few DBCC commands which we are using on regular basis. When you get this question, you can tell about at least 4 or 5 DBCC commands. Okay. So that's about the DBCC, and the next one is that DMVs. DMV means database management views. DMV and then DMF. DMV means database management views, and DMF means dynamic management functions. When it comes to the DMF, we have to enter the parameters, and then when it comes to the DMVs, no need to enter any parameters. Okay. So we already familiar with the DBCC DMV commands, and these DMV commands, DMVs introduced in from SQL Server 2005 and above. Before that, there is no DMVs. So DMV is like it's an advanced concept of DBCS command. Whatever information we are getting from DBCS, so the kind of information also we can get it from DMVs. DMVs are more robust than the DBCC commands. Right? Again, we have plenty of DMVs and DMFs available. I think they are increasing these commands in every version, every new version. Right? Here, it's no need to much worry about DMVs and DMFs, because these are directly placing or sitting in the master database. When you want to use the DMVs or DMFs, you can go to the master database, and we can get the DMV, and then you can use it, either DMV or DMF. Again, these DMVs or DMFs, they classified into 4. One is the database wise, and the second one is OS wise, and Queries means exec, dm underscore exec, and IO related. Right? DM underscore DB means that's related to, we can find the DB databases related information or operations information. And DM underscore EXEC, queries as an information, as in catch information, kind of information we can find. And DM underscore IO operations like read and write, this read operation, write operation, the kind of information we can find using DM underscore IO. The final one is the DM underscore OS, like operating system, memory, CPU, threads related, scheduler kind of information we can find. Right? So the advantage of DMVs and DMFs are no need to much worry to remember all these commands, because you can directly find in the master database. Okay. You go to server and system databases, master database, and go to views. Go to system views. Okay, system views, like here we can see that. So DMVs will start with sys.dm underscore here. Audit actions, broker connections, CLR, DM underscore DB, file space uses. Okay, so if you want to find the file size information, select star from sys.dm underscore DB underscore file underscore space use. Specific database ID, database file information, we can find it here. Just no need to much worry, but interview point of view, we have to remember a few commands, but it comes to the real time, so we can directly get the right command to get the information. Here we can see that another second one is that log space. Here sys dot select star from we need to add, then sys dot dm underscore db underscore log underscore space underscore use. Dot dm underscore db underscore log underscore space uses. So like we use it the dbcc SQL per log space command, right? So that command display the all the databases log files information. But when using this command is only providing the file information, log file size information for only the specific database. We are executing on the master database. This is the master database log file information, right? But when it comes to the dbcc SQL per log space, which you used previously, that will display the all the databases log file information. Right? Missing indexes, index users, right? There are mirror connections. There are many missing indexes and session space uses, right? Task space uses. There are many, like here we can find. So DM underscore DB means database wise information. EXEC means connection wise information. EXEC connections, like here we can find all the connections information in server. Sys dot select star from sys dot dm underscore exec connections and again we can see the all the user related connections information here. Right? The same way we have request. What are the requests? DM underscore exec request. So here we can see the all the sessions information, session start time, status, command, what command, user ID, wait type, all the sessions which are currently pointing to the SQL Server, those status, where the sessions are coming, what is the wait type, what time started, and here we can also see the completion time, percent to complete, and CPU time, scheduler, like all entire connections, sessions information we can see. It's very similar to activity monitor, right? Connections, sessions, request. There are many DMVs for session wise. The same for HRDL, like availability replica status, replication. For replication, we can use it few, and IO backup tapes. Right? There are many. So whatever information you want to get it, then we have to use the relevant DMV. So when it comes to the DMFs, so DMFs are under programmability, and then we have to expand the functions, system functions. Here we can see that, like when it comes to the login for missing indexes. Okay, so we familiar with one that is select star from this dot dm underscore db underscore index underscore physical stats. So this DMF we are using for finding the fragmentation. Comes to the DMFs, we have to enter the parameter. Like here, these are the parameters. We can use the fragmentation details. The same way, log info, log status, right? So, dump file. So, right, this kind of whatever information you want to find, and based on that, we have to use the relevant DMV or TMF. Right? But when it comes to the interview point of view, at least we have to remember 4 or 5 DMVs. DMS select star from DM underscore DB underscore index underscore physical stats. Select star from DM underscore DB underscore select star from DM underscore DB underscore DM underscore EXC connections, EXC request, EXC sessions, missing indexes. At least note that 4 or 5 DMVs which we are using on a regular basis. When it comes to the real time work, no need to worry much about, because everything we can find in the master database. Right, so that's about the DMVs and DMF commands. So I hope you understand. That's mean we completed like performance tuning, general troubleshooting, real-time scenarios. So please practice test scenarios. Test scenarios are very useful. If you have confident, then so no need to worry to work in real-time environment. So practice these things. And tomorrow, that's for today class. And tomorrow we'll discuss about ticketing process, like how we are receiving the work from the users. So what kind of process we are following for handling the tickets. So that we will discuss in tomorrow, that we can call it a ticketing process. And if you have a time, then we'll look into the new features of 2012, 2014, 16, 17, and 19. So that's for tomorrow class, and that's today. And Friday we'll discuss about tools, and Saturday we'll discuss about security features, TDE and always encryption. So these two we'll discuss on Saturday, and the next week 3 classes required: Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. These 3 days will complete the clustering. So that's mean with these classes. So that's mean the next week Wednesday the course will complete. Okay, so that's all for today. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask, and if you don't have anything, then we'll wrap up now, and then we'll catch up on tomorrow same time. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you understand clearly. We'll wrap up now and then we'll catch up on tomorrow. Thank you for joining. Have a nice day.